If you were blindfolded with the goal of making it into the nether with only the help from a stranger, would you have enough trust to do it successfully? Well, luckily for me, I was the one guiding her, along with delayed internet, miscommunication, and so much more going wrong, including her unfortunate spawn in the middle of the ocean on an abandoned shipwreck. But since I was stranded with a stranger, I wanted to test out our cooperation skills by making them get the shipwreck's treasure. Keep going left. Luckily, it wasn't too difficult to steal, as it was mostly above water. However, on this shipwreck, there happened to be 2 chests. The second one was more challenging to get to, as there were no blocks you could stand on, meaning Aero had to rely solely on muscle memory to not drown. Somehow, she managed to do this quite easily and obtained a buried treasure map in the process. But that's when I realized how useless it would actually be, as she couldn't even see it. After she was done searching through the chest, I explored around to see if there was anything nearby, and after only going 100 blocks, there was an underwater ruined portal. With a little swimming, getting there was simple. However, guiding her to the chest was slightly more problematic, because if I guided them in the slightest wrong direction, they could easily be killed by magma blocks. Fortunately for me, they were able to make it to the chest without losing a single heart and gained a much needed flint and steel. Now, us being in the middle of the ocean was really annoying, as Aero was unable to get any resources. So I flew around in the hopes of finding land, and after traveling over 2,000 blocks, I finally came across a dark oak forest. But after returning back to her, I was very confused as she was walking backwards. Why are you going backwards?
I'm not. I'm holding W. I can see
no,
my
you're
hands.
not. You're holding S. I'm not lying to you. You are literally going backwards right now. But after that was resolved, we continued towards land, and after 5 minutes, they were greeted by a different dark oak forest surrounding a beach. Now, at the time of arrival, it happened to be midnight, meaning I had to try and steer her away from all of the mobs trying to attack. The zombie's gonna get you. Whilst in the process of running, she managed to fall into a pond with no obvious way out, and after observing the whole area, it turned out that they needed to break the dirt to escape. However, as soon as she left, another unfortunate event occurred, as she almost walked straight into a ravine. But luckily, I was able to stop her just in time. Okay, I'm gonna get you into this ravine, but no, you need wood. When Aero got materials from the shipwreck, she only got food and paper. This meant that I needed to guide her to a few trees to start making helpful items. After collecting a few trees, it was now nighttime. This meant mobs kept coming out of nowhere, causing her to run off the edge of the island and die of fall damage. After collecting all of their stuff, I realized that they had all of the wood they needed, meaning the difficult challenge of crafting was about to begin. The reason why this is such a hard task is because I cannot help them in any way because of the fact I can't see their inventory. Regardless of that, her first crafting recipe shouldn't be too hard, as she only needed to make planks. Whilst in the process of making that block, she also managed to make sticks, which was quite fortunate. But now this is where the real test takes place, as they needed to create a wooden pickaxe, and because I couldn't do anything, I just started building a house out of boredom. However, they thought of a clever way to know where things in their inventory were. Basically, they would throw me all of their items in their hopper, then I would give them back the ones they requested. Now, as simple as this method sounds, crafting was still quite a challenge, as they failed to make a pickaxe several times.
I'm really thinking about this. It should be a pickaxe.
But eventually, with the use of their extraordinary muscle memory, they were able to make a pickaxe successfully. Yay! Good job! All that was left to do was to take them into the ravine. Upon investigating, there happened to be a lush cave with water at the bottom. The only problem was that they needed to parkour into it. But to be able to do this with success, I needed to take them to the very edge of the cliff. When we arrived, I explained to them how to do the jump. Step 1, stand as close to the edge as possible. Step 2, jump. Step 3, walk backwards whilst in the air. However, it turns out my explanation was actually not that good, as they landed on a drip leaf and died. Okay, there you go. You got this. You've got this. Oh, since I did feel a little bit of pity for them, I did not force her to do that parkour again. Instead, I teleported them to the bottom where the water was. Now, it turns out that under this lush cave, there was a huge lava pool, making it easy to get obsidian for a nether portal. While we were continuing to the next floor, the cave was darker than expected, and because of my lack of vision, I thought I guided them into water, but it turns out that I just made them die to fall damage, making me realize that it would be a smart idea to drink a potion of night vision. After returning, we realized that we had made a terrible decision to come to the cave. This was because she needed stone for a stone pickaxe. Except since we were in Deep Slate, we weren't sure if it could be used for pickaxe crafting, but after extensive research, it turns out we could, so no interruptions occurred. Now that they had mined sufficient Deep Slate, we thought everything was going great, until we found out that she didn't have any more wood. As a solution, they gave me all of their stuff and jumped into the lava. So how does this help, you may ask? Since they spawn at the shipwreck, they can break wooden planks and travel back with no issues. Because it was taking a while for them to collect the wood, I decided to place down a few shriekers to see if I could somehow summon the warden. Fortunately, it didn't work, so I wanted to see if the warden could still fire its shrieker attacks through barrier blocks. Meanwhile, Arrow had just returned, but not for long as the warden killed her. I do admit, since it was my fault, I got rid of it and gave her a well-deserved TP back. With all the resources now collected, Arrow started the challenge of making a stone pickaxe. Eventually, after 10 minutes, the pickaxe was crafted, and surprisingly, it somehow took her longer to craft it than previously when she made a wooden pickaxe. But now that's out of the way, it was my responsibility to guide them to the iron. Unfortunately, this happened to be on the opposite side of the cave, meaning they had to travel around the lava pool. But before I even started taking her, I made sure she got plenty of blocks that she would need to build a tower up to the iron ore. After collecting them, I was able to guide her perfectly to the iron blocks where she acquired 9 pieces. For the next task, they needed to craft a furnace to smelt the iron and make a bucket. After failing to craft a furnace several times, I made the suggestion that they didn't have enough blocks. But to no surprise, I was correct as they only had 2. After collecting more deep slate, I guided them back to the crafting table where they were finally able to craft a furnace. The next stage of this task was quite simple, as all she needed to do was smelt the iron. Observing from the furnace, I was able to tell that she was successful in smelting the iron with no trouble whatsoever. But now it was time for what I believe to be the hardest part, crafting the bucket. Because one misplaced iron and you could make something entirely different, but to my shock, she did it easily first try. Now all that was left to do was take her back to the waterfall to collect a bucket of water. I advised her that she might need blocks, so they started to dig down, and somehow, this actually turned out to be a great idea because she would not receive fall damage from jumping back onto the bottom floor. Guiding her back to the original spot was easy, but the next task was so much harder, as I needed her to get up the water stream. Now because of the water having motion, it was hard for her to follow the current, and as a result, kept getting pushed out of the water. Eventually, after a few minutes, they were able to successfully climb up the water. After reaching the top, everything seemed to be going according to plan, but that's when a skeleton came out of nowhere and shot her, causing them to die. But once they returned, it was time to perform the actual task at hand, collecting the water. As she already happened to be standing in a puddle, she just right-clicked and we both made our way back down to the lava pool. The next challenge was definitely the most difficult out of the whole game so far, constructing the nether portal. Whilst this was being built, I was definitely feeling a lot more panic than Arrow, as they almost fell into the lava several times. Even so, I had to find a way to make it easier for the both of us. After thinking, I realized that I could just join Arrow's mind to see what they see. However, my direction still ended up being dreadful as the water was misplaced in the wrong spot multiple times, until finally, it was placed correctly. But somehow something I wasn't expecting happened. She accidentally threw her bucket straight into the water, causing it to flow right into the lava. And because of this, Arrow had to quickly do some off-camera mining to acquire a new bucket. After that issue was out of the way, I decided to re-enter her mind so that I could get the block placement as accurate as possible. But for the next 30 minutes, she was severely failing to place the lava until she died by another skeleton. At this point, it was getting rather late. We had places to be, things to do, so I ended up building the portal. However, I left the honors of lighting the portal up to Arrow. But now, we were in the nether, so our entire challenge was completed. How do you feel?
I feel confused.
But if there's one thing you should learn from this, trusting strangers is okay in the circumstances that you are playing Minecraft. But if you did enjoy, subscribing would really help me out a lot.